My guest today is an Oscar-winning and Golden Globe-winning actor, dancer, and singer who's appeared in a number of iconic film, TV, and stage productions, but I think it's safe to say that even 60 years later, he's still best remembered as Bernardo, leader of the Sharks, in the classic movie musical West Side Story. That film and his long career are chronicled in his long-awaited memoir, My West Side Story. Mr. George Chakiris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
You know, I was doing a little research on your background, and I learned that here you were, this young guy in the early 1950s. You had just finished high school, now you're in college, and you decide to take a big risk. You decide to leave school and pursue a career in the entertainment field, and I'm just curious, what was your parents' reaction to you doing that?
I love that question. You know, my parents were supportive and totally for anything I would have done. My parents were two of the most beautiful people that I've ever met, and they were great. I like that question because over the years I've heard so many kids say that their parents were not behind them in what they wanted to do, but it was really the opposite with my parents, and in my case, they were great.
Well, that's very fortunate for you because right out of the gate, you started getting work. And, you know, I have a listener, Lynn in Fort Lee, and she's a big, big fan of yours. And, boy, she sent me a bunch of questions here. Basically, she wants to know, before you had a leading role, you know, you had appeared as a dancer in movie musicals that are classics today. And she wants to know about you dancing along with Rosemary Clooney and also Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, my first job in the business at all was as a dancer, first of all, in a movie called The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, and that was my first job. And then I made enough money working on that to join the union and then audition for other movie musicals as well, like White Christmas and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I got to work in, I'll tell you what, those were such incredible years, probably because, you know, when you're young, everything feels good. But the truth is, I got to be on the tail end of some really fantastic stuff. Working as a dancer, we all loved it so much. We got to work with great choreographers and be in really wonderful movies behind some extraordinary stars. It was a great time. Rosie Clooney was just one of the sweetest people you'd ever want to meet. We became friends afterwards, you know, and I knew her for a very long time. I love Rosie, but of course everybody did. And Marilyn Monroe, again, one of my favorite credits is to be able to say that I danced in the chorus of that incredible number of Diamond Is a Girl's Best Friend from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
You were also in There's No Business Like Show Business too, right?
That's right, absolutely right. Thank you. Well, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was choreographed by Jack Cole, one of the great choreographers of all time. He was her favorite choreographer. She always wanted him. After she did Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, she asked for Jack no matter what she was doing. If there was a musical number in anything, she wanted Jack Cole to do it. The thing that I remembered about her, she was very quiet. When we had to stop for any reason, she didn't look in the mirror. She didn't go to her dressing room. What she did was she went right back to her starting position and quietly just waited for it to start again. And I couldn't help but notice that was the case, that she was so focused on her work, she didn't look in the mirror. She didn't do any of that. She just went right back to start over again. I got to be around her a number of times, but that one is one that absolutely sticks out in my mind. And in No Business Like Show Business, the choreographer for all the numbers on that film was a man called Robert Alton. Robert Alton was I think he was the only choreographer who ever got single frame credit for anything he did. Even Jack Cole didn't get that.
Wow.
But the reason was because Robert Alton was a Broadway, he had done so much, but Marilyn wanted Jack Cole to do the Heat Wave number. And so what Robert Alton did was he put together, he staged and prepared and did a number for Marilyn, the Heat Wave number, his version. He had a girl standing in for Marilyn to learn what Marilyn would be doing. And in that number, there were 4 guys he used to be around her in that number. And I got to be one of the 4 guys. And after Robert Alton staged this number, and it was ready for Marilyn to see, she came in. It was a wonderful sunny afternoon, one of those great rehearsal rooms at Fox. And again, she came in by herself. She was very quiet. Couldn't really hear what they were saying, but you could see that they were just being gracious. Hello, how are you? And so on. And then, so we did the number, and then we finished the number. She thanked them, and she left. And, long story short, Jack Cole did that number for her in that movie. She really wanted Jack for that. And with all due respect to Robert Alton, Marilyn was absolutely right.
These are big movies. At some point, though, you decide you're going to New York. Here's another big risk you're taking, and you pursue a stage career.
Yeah, exactly. The movie musicals were basically coming to an end not long after that. And so work for dancers here in Los Angeles was kind of scarce. Well, I did get to do some television. I did dance on in the Donald O'Connor show. He was fantastic. But you're right. I thought to myself, what do I do now? And I just thought the logical move seemed to be, go to New York. And some friends of mine had made the move before me. And so I bought a one-way ticket to New York, and my friends put me up on the couch in their living room so I'd have a place to stay. And it was just extraordinary kind of timing, as it were, because within a month after arriving in New York, and by the way, my friends knew everything that was going on in the theater in New York. They knew it all.
Right.
One of them worked for Roger L. Stevens, who was a huge producer. I think he's one of the producers for West Side Story. But so my friends suggested that I go to the Winter Garden Theater where West Side Story was playing and ask for Ruth Mitchell, who was a stage manager. So that's what I did. One evening at the end of their performance, I went to the stage door, and the first person I saw was a guy called Howard Jeffrey, who had been a student at the American School of Dance. He was now assisting Jerry Robbins, so it was a really serendipitous kind of meeting, as it were, because he, of course, introduced me to Ruth Mitchell, and she looked at me and thought I should read for the role of Bernardo, and she set that up for a time for me to audition for Jerry. So at the appointed time, it was during his lunch break. He was rehearsing Ballets USA. I was the only one auditioning that day, but he was fantastic. I just remember he was so gracious. I remember what a beautiful smile he had. Listen, I love Jerry Robbins, period. But so I read for the role of Bernardo, and after doing that, he asked me to look at the role of Riff. So it took about 20 minutes to go back into the wings and look at that role. And then I read for the role of Riff, and he then asked me to learn Cool, which in the theater version is sung by Riff. In the film version, it was sung by a character called Ice. That was played by Tucker Smith. It was absolutely just so fantastic. Really, it's a great number. So I eventually did get the role of Riff in the London Company. That was in November 1958. And on my birthday, September 16th, 1958, I had a call from Ruth Mitchell telling me that I was hired to play Riff in the London Company, and I also had 7 checks from my California unemployment, $35 each. So it was an amazing birthday. Yeah. And in terms of dancers in the stage productions being cast in the film, there were a number of let's see, Eddie Verso, one of the dancers in the London Company. He was only 16 at the time. He was in the film. My friend David Bean, the London Company, was also in the film. And there were a few others. So there were some dancers who had been in the stage production who, in fact, did end up in the film as well.
That film, as I said, the original film is iconic, and people, I'm sure, ask you all the time about Natalie Wood, whose stardom continues to grow, even posthumously.
I just get goosebumps. I seriously do, just thinking about it right now. Natalie was, first of all, the most beautiful young girl you'd ever want to see. She was lovely. She was talented. She was smart. She was a wonderful actress, and she had a very special personal quality that you saw you felt in everything she did. To me, the thing that makes us respond more to some actors than we do to others is what I think of as their basic personal quality that comes across in everything they do. And I think that's true of Natalie, because her goodness, her kindness, her generosity, everything about her, you can feel it. At least I can. And I got to know her pretty well. And I spent some time at her home and so on, things like that. And I just have the greatest respect for her as an actress, but I really loved who she was as a person. She was, we hear, unfortunately, too often we hear things about people that are not true. They're not correct.
Right.
She was gregarious and fun to work with. She spoke to everybody. I mean, she was a real professional. I remember the first day I saw her, Rita and I were rehearsing at Goldwyn Studios, which is where we filmed that West Side Story. And we were on the second floor of a rehearsal building of a unit. And down on the street below, I saw Natalie by herself walking towards the rehearsal. That was the first time I saw her. She was just, dressed for rehearsal, nothing glamorous. But I just remember liking her right away before I first got to see her or speak to her. I just remember liking that girl. She was beautiful, but there was something very likable, and that turned out to be the case, because she is that. She was just, I love her. I really love Natalie.
I don't think I'll try and talk too much. I just want to say thank you very, very much. Thank you.
They have a bunch of clips from the Oscars on YouTube.
Okay.
You must have been just overwhelmed on that night, because you didn't have a speech really prepared.
No, and Rita didn't have a speech prepared either. We went to the awards together, and the car came and picked me up first, and then we drove over to her place, and I went up the stairs to open the door so she could come out. And the first thing she said to me, she said, "I'm practicing my loser's face." And so, she's funny. She's got such a great sense of humor. So it's true when neither of us expected anything. And the way I kind of have thought about it, and after the fact, was that it's kind of like if you buy a lottery ticket, you really don't expect to win, but you kind of think wouldn't it be nice if you did. That's the way I kind of try to express what that evening felt like. And the evening was made so beautiful because we went together. We were great friends. We still are, and we both were lucky that night as well. So it was an amazing, beautiful evening.
Before I let you go, and these are all fantastic stories, and I feel like I could go on forever. I know you did a movie later with Gene Kelly. That must have been a thrill.
It's fun to talk about it. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
But in closing here, I just want to ask you, you are in your 80s, correct?
Yeah, I'm 88.
You're 88 years old. Now, I am in my 50s, and you look like you could be my younger brother. So whatever secrets you have to staying so fit and so young, what are they?
I think I hope it's genetic. My mother's father, my grandfather, lived to be 108. And my mother lived to be 103. So, and she was amazing her entire life. So listen, who knows when it'll all start to really fall apart any day now. But so far it's kind of like, okay, and I hope I last today. But I really thank you for the question. And also, I'd like to say this. I think dancers, because it's such a physical occupation, and they take care of themselves physically in a way that I guess maybe many people don't have the opportunity to do. So I've always exercised, and I still do, and I don't feel good if I don't. It's like I need to do it or I don't feel good. So that's the only thing I can say about hopefully, pulling myself together on a day-to-day basis, you know.
Mr. Chakiris, it's a great thrill to speak with you, and I wish you all the best. And again, the book is My West Side Story, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I've been really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.